Hello everyone, Josh here with Guys of Legends, bringing y'all another Eroica video, and today we're going to be discussing something very cool. Now this is something that me and other members of the community in our Discord, which you can find the link to in the description below, definitely join that. We do some cool stuff there in live streams. We went ahead and we created an ultimate team. We put 3 superstars together and made an all-star team, an all-star cast of players, because they can do it all. They can be it all because they are it all. And I know maybe I'm hyping this up a little bit too much. Maybe I'm a little eager to show you all this, but it's exciting because it's not units that I, particularly actually was interested in early on. But then I started reading, I started researching, I started getting more educated, more familiar with what these units can do. I started seeing some of these units work individually, and I started to just kind of have my brain just start to get into this creative, spurt. And I was like, oh my God, these 3 units together can make it last forever. Okay, that was a bit cheesy, but anyways, let's go ahead and jump into these 3 units. And by the way, spoiler alert, these 3 units have the potential to be the best in the game, but guess what? They are not 3-star heroes. These are 1- and 2-star heroes only. It's exciting stuff, which means this team is 100% free to play. But I will warn you right now before we get into it, this team will not be easy to build. This is going to be more of a long-term investment, but it'll definitely pay off in the end. We've done a lot of testing and research with these individual units, and we know what they can do together. The chemistry is flawless, and some of the cool stuff that you can do with pre-cores as well can really make this team just go to that next level. So, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about these units. So first up is the main attraction, the real core component to this trio, this holy trinity, if you will. Our girl, Molina. She ain't a bad grass, she's a badass. And let me tell you something else that you might not have known about our girl, Molina. She is perfect, okay? And let's talk about why. Preview, max stats, power, 14,850. That should tell you right now that she's got a lot of stats to handle, okay? Biggest thing about her right off the bat, and I'm not talking about her assets, I'm talking about that attack stat, 4,851. That thing is enormous. And I'm not talking about that tail swing between her legs. Gentlemen, calm down. I know you're jealous. But 4,851 attack is the highest in the entire game. It's incredible. Her speed is 744. That is top 5, I believe, in the entire game in terms of speed. So she has 2 top 5 stats already that are both going to be great for her kit and what she's going to do and provide for the team. She has 28.2% crit, which isn't very high. Obviously, that's kind of around the average, but she has a mechanic in her kit where she can give herself 60% crit up. So she's already kind of sitting there already at 88%, essentially. So if you can get her another 12 to 20%, if you want to kind of get over a little bit to kind of mitigate some of that crit dodge that other units are going to have, obviously, and maybe even some of the mobs and bosses and stuff, you're going to be able to do so with gear quite easily, which allows her to be one of the very few, and I mean few, units that can actually utilize crit damage gear in this game, which is very exciting, which means more damage output. Okay, and then of course her accuracy is 33%, which is incredible and very solid there. So very good for powerhouse, right? But that's not all she has to offer. She has more, and we're going to get to that when we break down the skills, when we actually go to the hero panel. We're going to leave that there for now. Let's go ahead and jump in and grab the other 2 units that we're going to be talking about. And conveniently enough, they're side by side. They're already partnered up. They're already ready to go. And that is our girl, Nero and Sumi. Let's go ahead and grab Nero real quick. She's a dark hero. She's a 2-star as well. She's got 14,400 power at max. Now, in case some of you are wondering, max stats that are shown here is level 10 friendship, maxed out runes, and them being 5-star level 60. All those stats are calculated and listed here. The only stats that you do not see is stats that you're going to get from gear. So keep that in mind. Now, she's pretty solid too stat-wise, if I'm being honest. She's got almost 6,500 HP, which is very good for a DPS-oriented unit. She's got almost 4,300 attack, which is solid, and almost 3,000 defense. And guess what? Another good thing about her, she's fast, 732 speed. Very good. So stat-wise, she's looking great, and she's a shooter class. So, she's going to be one of the very few shooters that you're actually going to use in this entire game, which is cool. So we're going to talk about her skill set as well when we get to that part. Now let's go ahead and open up the final unit. She's last, but she's certainly not least. And that is our girl, Sumi. She is our 1-star fire unit. She's also shadow as well. She has 14,503 power. She has 4274 on attack. Pretty decent HP as well, almost 5,900. Decent defense, almost 3K. And look at her speed. 752. So guess what the common theme is with this team, ladies and gentlemen? It's very fast. It's very DPS oriented. They have very good stats for being DPSs and being fast, which means they're going to be good in a lot of different types of content, including even PvP. But that's just their stats. That's just showing how good they are stat-wise, but how do they stack up skill-wise? What makes them good? Where's the chemistry, you're asking? Well, let's go ahead and break that down too. Let's go up here into our heroes. Let's just start talking about some of these units individually now. I started kind of working, because I'm on my main account right now. I started kind of working on our girl, Molina. As you can see, she's already level 40. I've already got her skills maxed out. I've already got a pretty significant amount of runes done, but obviously I'm going to have to farm up shards because, again, this is going to be more of a long-term build, but this team is going to be incredible. So let's go ahead and look at her skills real quick. So we see here, skill 1 deals 110% of attack to a target, 75% chance to bleed for 2 turns, because of course we're going to use the beta bonus, increased chance to bleed by 15%. So she's going to have a 75% chance to bleed on her skill 1. And in case some of you are not familiar with the bleed mechanic, let me try to explain it real quick because your heads are going to explode. I'm going to say bleeds only do 10% max attack, which is, yes, half of what burn does. So you're probably rolling your eyes in the back of your head like, Josh, bro, Malavi, Xenia, I mean, come on, you're already making the burn team. You know how good they are. And yes, they are amazing. The burn team is beautiful. I like to see the world burn. It's great. But burns do 20% per tick, unless you're using Tipsy, of course, with our girl Malavi, which can take that up to 35% a tick. But bleeds are a very special mechanic because bleeds can actually proc every single time an enemy gets attacked that has a bleed. So if you're running a team of 4 units, and let's say you have a bleed up for 3 turns, for example, right? If your 4 units all hit that enemy with the bleed, you're going to proc that bleed 4 times for 40% of damage based on the max stat of whoever inflicted the bleed in the first place, which could be your Sumi, which we'll talk about in a little bit, or your Molina. That's incredible, but that's not it. It will tick again. It'll proc again at the end of the turn of the enemy. So you're getting multiple bleed procs per round, like per rotation, which is insane. And if you have multiple bleeds on the enemy and all 4 of your units attack, guess what? Every time your ally attacks or you attack, that's going to be, you know, let's say you have 2 bleeds, you're going to proc it twice. You have 3 bleeds, you're going to proc it 3 times. Every single time the enemy takes a hit. It's incredible. And we're going to talk about how you can also kind of explore other options that are even more amazing with that later on when we get to our girl Nero. So she got bleeds. She's got super high attack stat, highest in the game, as we said. Skill 2, grants herself crit chance up for 3 turns. Now again, as I said, crit chance up, I believe, is 60% crit. Her and Luna both have that, and that's why those are 2 of the only, like, maybe 3 or 4 units in the entire game, I would say, that could even really fully utilize a crit damage set. She also gets chase for 3 turns, also takes extra turn. Now chase allows her to basically ignore being taunted. You want to taunt her, she pops that buff, it won't matter. Now she also takes an extra turn, which should also allow for her skill 3 cooldown to be lowered by an additional 1 mana, because you're technically taking an additional turn, which is insane. Now, her alpha and her beta buffs, you can reduce debuff duration applied to self by 2 turns, or you can grant self accuracy up for 2 turns, which I would take the accuracy. That way, if you run in her in PvP, for example, and you get hit with a fellow, or an enemy, Nero or Mince, you can kind of get around the blind. You can also get around the blind in the current Crucible, and when that Crucible comes back around on rotation, you'll be prepared. If any of the other Crucibles or any other types of content late game have blind, you're gonna be able to play around that as well, because blind, of course, lowers accuracy and increases the chance for you to miss. So that's incredible. Her skill 2 is great. And taking that extra turn, that's going to then allow you to go into her skill 3 or go into her skill 1. And again, that's going to lower the skill 3's mana by 1 because you're taking an extra turn. And when you take turns without using skill 2s and 3s, guess what happens? The mana goes down. Incredible. Skill 3. 200% attack to a target, 100% chance to bleed it for 3 turns. Now, her alpha and beta boost dealing damage by 30% to shooter class while in chase, which means if she's taunted, or actually, I think it just means if she's just buffed. I don't think she even has to be taunted. I think it just works on her buff. I'd have to test that little part out because I'm not entirely sure on that one. But that's PvP only anyways. And boost dealing damage by 30% to mage class while in chase, also PvP only. So neither of those two are going to use as much. Honestly, those are going to be more niche, but they are very helpful because you will run into both those types of classes in PvP. They are part of some of the speed and the speed control, and I'd say also the stall meta. You will run into one or the other, and you probably are going to fight, those units consistently if you start climbing PvP up into like gold and beyond, the top 30, top 10, whatever. So, but you're not going to use those two as much, but the initial 200% plus the bleed damage, and we've already explained how bleed works, and we've already talked about how much damage that, she could potentially output because of her having the highest attack stat in game. So, Molina is amazing. She's a top 5 unit in the entire game for me, personally. Awesome unit. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the other 2 units. Nero is already chilling right here, so let's go ahead and talk about her. Now, obviously, I have not been able to, on my main account, to touch Nero or, of course, Sumi yet. Those are going to be work in progress. But let's go ahead and talk about her skills real quick. I like to look at it from here because then I can kind of show you guys the progression of the skills from level 1 to 5. So, on Nero's skill 1, he's going to deal, let's see here. He's going to do 90. You're going to do 100% of attack to a target, and she's going to pick up 20% chance, so that's going to take her up to 60% chance to trigger a pincer. Now, if you choose her alpha, the pincer attack from the ally with the most attack will be the one that gets to do it. So when you do your pincer attack, it's always going to be your Molina that's going to be doing it, which is great because you want your Molina to always do the pincer attack because she's your highest damage dealer. So her getting free attacks is great, and that's a 60% chance on a skill 1, which means no mana required. Or you can increase chance to trigger pincer attack by 10%, which would take it up to 50. So you could go either way. Honestly, if you're running a very DPS oriented team, you're not running a Guardian Sai or a normal Sai or a healer or anything else that's not going to be doing damage. If you're running just pure DPS, you could probably switch that and do the increased chance to 10%, make it a 70% chance on skill 1 if you'd like to. And that's really about it. So skill 1 is amazing. And by the way, before we move on, I almost forgot, this is a very important part of the video. Pincer attacks do in fact proc additional bleed damage. It doesn't apply a new bleed, but it will proc the bleed tick to go off yet again. And that's going to lead us to talk about a certain pre-core before we end the video. So stay tuned for that too. Skill 2 deals, let's see here, 90% of attack to all enemies. Inflicts, now you can inflict attack down on the target for 2 turns with a percentage chance based on the round and round skill level, 60% max, or you can blind the target for 1 turn with a percentage chance based on the round and round skill level, 45% max. And of course you can raise both those percentages up 10% if you level her skill up 3 and 4. Now this skill, you don't have to use this skill very often. Nero is going to mostly be here for skill 1 and skill 3. You're not really going to use your skill 2. So again, it's going to save you a little bit of mana because you're not going to have to really focus on that too often. Skill 3. This is going to be great for PvP. We already talked about this whole team being very fast. Skill 3. She's going to deal 120% of attack to all enemies, and she's going to have a 100% chance to blind them for 1 turn. That's insane. That is very insane. That's actually a better percentage for a blind AoE than even Mint's. And I think Mint's and Nero's speed is only like 10 to 12 difference. So with some good gear rolls, you're going to be able to probably even outspeed a Mint's, honestly, with a Nero if you really tried hard. And she's going to have a better blind. If you choose her alpha, 60% chance to inflict them debuff dodge down for 1 turn, which would be great, especially in PvP, dealing with those stall metas. Or inflict herself debuff hit up for 1 turn. So either way you go with that could work out. Honestly, you could probably just do the inflicts herself debuff hit up for 1 turn. But if you do want to make sure that you're getting more bleeds to trigger with your bleed units, then maybe you want to use the alpha instead. So again, this team has a lot of flexibility depending on what you want to do with it. And what's cool is you can reset all these skills for just 10,000 gold. So it's not like you have too much to lose trying to test some things out. So very strong unit right there. I love Nero. I feel like she's a better Mints because she has more utility. She has more to offer, especially in this crazy trio. All right, last unit, Sumi. Please don't sue me. I'm just talking about our girl Sumi. So Sumi, our fire shadow warrior. Haha. Go to her skills real quick. Let's break them down. Skill 1. She's going to do, let's see here, 120% of attack to a target. Alpha skill, 75% chance to bleed the target for 2 turns, or 35% chance to inflict yourself debuff hit up for 2 turns. You obviously want to go alpha. That way you now have 2 bleed units that can bleed on their skill 1 with a pretty good percentage. Skill 2. Deals 120% of attack to a target, and her chance goes up to 100% chance to bleed it for 3 turns. Increases bleed duration by 1 turn on crit hit. Accelerates her own turn gauge by 20%. Both are excellent. You could have an opportunity to go much earlier in the lineup with her B, or with her alpha. You can of course add and make that bleed become a 4-turn bleed on a crit hit. So you have really good options right there. Ultimate, her skill 3 here. 200% of attack to a target. Increases damage by 15% per bleed stack and removes 3 bleed stacks. Don't use that one. We don't want to do any of those ones. But what we want to do is her B. Increases damage by 30%, which makes her ultimate go up to 230%. We've already talked about her being very fast. She has a bleed on her skill 1, a bleed on her skill 2. She has a ton of damage coming out of her skill 3. Okay? You guys are kind of getting the picture here. We are going to spam bleeds, spam speed, and spam damage. And it's going to be great. It's going to be glorious. And what's really nice is all 3 of these units are different elements. We have fire, grass, and dark, which means they're not going to be fighting for runes, which is even better. So this is going to be an amazing trio. But you know what's really going to tie this whole trio together to make them just kind of go over the top and be just downright disgusting? Check this out. We're going to go to pre-cores here. And there's a pre-core here, a little pre-core here called Legendary Gladiator. We're going to be running 3 of these. 1 on each of our 3 units that we just discussed, because you can use these on any unit because it's all equipped. At max, it's 25% chance to trigger a pincer attack with a random ally on if you inflict any kind of crit damage. So basically you want to crit hit. And we already know that our girl Molina is going to get crits all the time because she's going to have her crit rate up, which is going to take her up to 100% plus. So she's going to crit quite often. The other 2 units, try and build them up a little bit through gear, get their crits to go off, and you have a 25% chance of them just spamming pincer attacks, which we've already discussed, do indeed make the bleed tick. And then we also have the active skill, which triggers pincer attack with the ally with the highest attack. So you'd want to use that when your Molina is not selected. That way you can just keep making your Molina go in and go in and go in and go in some more, doing insane amounts of damage. And since it only uses 50 of your burst gauge, if you save your burst gauge up to 100, you can do that back-to-back turns. It is absolutely disgusting. And what's really cool is you get a copy of this when you start out a new account on Global, when you do your beginner tutorial in Chapter 0. You also get a SSR selector, which you also can get another copy of this from. So you already got 2 right there. You're already 2/3 of the way done, and I might even be missing some ways. So ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The ultimate free-to-play team going forward for a long-term investment. This team might be one of the strongest in the entire team. Not just free-to-play, but one of the best, period. The damage potential in this team is off the charts. You have one of the strongest units in the entire game in this team. You have probably collectively speaking, probably the fastest team in the game that can all hurt you in many different ways. They can bleed you. They can just hit you with crit damage. They can do a ton of damage. They can spam attacks. And you even got Nero in there that can blind you. So incredible powerhouses that we're dealing with here, ladies and gentlemen. They're not even 3-star units. There's 3 of them. Your 4th unit, you can have fun with that. Use your imagination. Be creative. You could throw in a Saya, Guardian Saya. You could throw in a healer. You could throw in another DPS. You could throw in another dot damage dealer. You could put a Malavi in there. You could put an O in there. I don't care what you do, because these 3 units are going to come in and clean up the house. Okay, hope you guys all enjoyed. Don't forget to tick notifications. Join us in Discord in the description below, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.